To install the amplifiers, we're going to build a couple of custom wiring looms. First, I'm going to tape the ends of one set of speaker wires, and we're using two sets of speaker wires. The reason I put the black tape around is so that I know which is left and which is right. Otherwise you'll be flipping your stereo channels. Now I'm just taping the cables together so that they will be easier to run through the car and to give a neat and tidy install. Now I'm going to repeat the process by running some tape around the pair of RCA cables and the remote turn on wire. Just every 2 to 3 feet is fine. Okay, before we can start pulling cables, I need to crimp the ends of the speaker wires into the metric connector. The reason for this is the front speakers are going to be powered, but I'm retaining the cables that Subaru installed running into the doors. So I'm currently splicing the wires from the amplifier into the metric connector, which will go to the factory harness. Now that that's done, I can pull through all of the cables. Here you can see that there is a potential for chafing the cables against the handbrake mechanism, so they have been placed inside a conduit. The conduit will prevent the cables from wearing through and starting a fire. Also, because there's moving linkages and cables in this area, make sure that you zip tie everything in place so that nothing can flop onto a moving part again, so it doesn't cut and it doesn't cause a fire. Now that everything is all neat and tidy, make sure that it's all sitting well, and then snap the center console over. The center console is going to hide the wiring very nicely and give it a very neat appearance once the installation is finished. Okay, now we will build the amplifier power cable. You need to install that fuse no more than 18 inches from the terminal. Here I've cut off the cable at 1 foot, and I am attaching one end of the fuse holder. Here I'm attaching the other end of the fuse holder to the other side of the cable. So attach the fuse, slide over the fuse holder, slide on the other end to complete the circuit, and now do up the end of the fuse holder. Do note the rubber grommets in there to prevent moisture getting in. Speaking of grommets, here's one that I've removed from the firewall. To run the cables through the firewall safely, locate a rubber grommet that's not been used, remove it, cut some holes, and run the cables through that instead. How do you attach those big lug terminals? Easy. Get a big hammer and bash them. Here's the hole that the grommet was removed from. The easiest way to install the cables is to run the cables through the grommet first, and then run the cables through the firewall. Here's the amplifier. Here are the speaker connections, left and right. And here are the power connections. Your 12 volt, your ground, and the remote turn on wire. As we're going to be using the head units crossover system, everything has been zeroed. Now it will be a bit difficult to see because we're installing the amplifiers underneath the seats, but I am connecting up the speaker cables, and then I will be connecting up the power cables, the remote turn on, and the RCA cables. And if you're wondering where you can find a good earthing point, seatbelts make excellent earthing points. Here I'm fishing through the speaker cable for the subwoofer that's going to be mounted behind the back seat. And here is the monoblock amplifier that will be powering the subwoofer. This will be going under the other seat. The connections are the same. Connect up the speaker cables, connect up the positive, the ground, the remote turn on, and the RCAs. Now that everything is connected up, we can connect the positive terminals. The positive terminals should not be connected until all other connections are made. So simply remove the nut, place the ring terminals down, and then tighten everything down. With some split loom over the cables, it'll provide a factory-like fit and finish. Now that that's all clamped down, we can put the factory terminal cover back in place after fiddling around a little bit.